realize how many years until we spoke on the phone the other day. More than 10, probably closer to 14 or so. Sandra Zimmer is the president of Sandra Zimmer and Associates Incorporated and is also the founder of the Self-Expression Center. She combines expertise in acting, voice, speech, and spiritual psychology. She guides people into a state where they feel safe and comfortable to speak in groups, helping them uncover their authentic way of expressing themselves so they shine when they present or perform. At the Self-Expression Center, she and her staff offer group and individual programs in presentation, public speaking, stage fright mastery, acting for non-actors, speaking, voice, and communication skills. Her corporate programs include presentation, persuasion and leadership presence, interview coaching, and speaking English clearly for foreign-born professionals. Sandra holds a doctorate in esoteric philosophy, an MA in theater, a BA in psychology, and a teaching certification in voice and diction, which I need help with today. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce our presenter today. The title of your, I'm sorry.
Let yourself shine.
Let yourself shine. Please help me welcome Sandra Zimmer.
Thank you for coming. Marianne Williamson wrote these remarkable words, and Nelson Mandela spoke these words at his 1994 inaugural address. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine, as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. Not just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Pretty nice words, huh? Have you heard that before? Yeah. The number one fear, they say, is the fear of public speaking. What's that about? What is that about? If that's so, why is that so? You know, we're afraid of making a fool of ourselves. We're afraid of making a mistake. Afraid of being humiliated. But underneath that, I wonder if what it isn't really about is that we are afraid to shine. I mean, I can feel this in myself sometime. Can you? This fear to really, really shine. So my work and my pleasure, my hobby, as my husband would say, is helping people shine their light into the world. And one of the ways that I do that is by guiding them through a process, a program that helps them transform stage fright into authentic presence. so that they feel comfortable and confident to share their ideas and insights and expertise when they speak in front of others, so they shine. And my approach to this is pretty different from what you at Toastmasters do. I'm not so much focused on the mechanics of public speaking. I'm more focused on helping free people up to be who they are in front of others. Because once you can be who you are in front of others, it gets easy to speak. So because my approach is somewhat different, people sometimes ask me how I got into this. In fact, someone today, I think it was Darlene, somebody said, "How did you get into this?" So I'd like to tell you that story. It's kind of fun for me to tell. And I'm fond of telling stories, and I like to start stories kind of in the middle. So I'm going to start this one right about here. I was just about to lose my costume in front of about 200 people when I first experienced the power of presence to transform my relationship with an audience. I was acting. I was playing the role of Morgan Le Fay in the musical Camelot on Maui. Yeah. So if you know the musical Camelot, you know that Morgan Le Fay is the evil, she's the villainess, the evil fairy queen, and she lives in the woods and has, elves and fairies. And so I had decided to play Morgan as a kind of a wood nymph. And I made a costume that was sort of flimsy. It was kind of long yards of flowing gauzy fabric, and it was all sort of artistically wrapped around me. It was all held together by a belt that snapped at the waist. Well, on this one particular night of the performance, I'm in the middle of my big scene. I'm walking across center stage, and I'm acting, I'm emoting. I'm sure my hands were in the air. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I think maybe I took a deep breath, and I feel that belt unsnap. And time sort of stopped. And everything went into this kind of strange, slow motion. I had eons of time to perceive, I'm about to lose my costume here. But I had plenty of time to decide what to do about it. Without missing a beat, a breath, a line, I gracefully reached down, grabbed the edges of the belt, snapped it back into place, and I continued to play the scene as though nothing had happened. But something really big had happened inside my inner climate. That wardrobe malfunction, as Janet Jackson would call it. I related. It caused me to become totally present to that moment. And I was all of a sudden in touch with everything. In touch with everything, but distracted by nothing. I felt my spirit expand to fill that entire auditorium. I felt enormous. And inside my body, I felt all this emotion flowing. It was very specific awareness of feeling. And I seemed to know what to do with all of that feeling with my body to express it. I felt really graceful and fluid. And my mind, my thinking was completely crystal clear. But even more amazing than all of that was that I was all of a sudden in touch with the audience in some palpable, spiritual way. I felt connected with them. Everything I said and did touched them. I could feel them responding to me. And they were feeding me some kind of energy. Honestly, I felt bathed in love. And it was an incredible experience for me. I was no longer performing for them. I was no longer acting for them. I was somehow being with them. And that was a very different zone for performance than I had ever experienced up to that point. So that experience lasted the rest of that night, all that night, the rest of that performance, and into late that night, and then the next morning, it was gone. I had no idea how to get back into that state. I knew I had experienced some kind of expansion of awareness, but I had no idea how to get myself back into it. And it took me about 4 years before I could integrate it and begin to do something with it. But fast forward, 4 years later, I am back in Houston where I grew up. And I am now teaching acting to adults, beginning acting to adults at the Country Playhouse, which is literally 2 blocks from here, right around the corner on Queensberry. I was teaching all of their acting classes, and I had all of these wonderful adults who were coming to learn to act, and they were smart, and they were sensitive, and they were wonderful. But when they would get up to perform their scenes in class, they would disconnect from who they authentically were. They were acting, they were emoting, but it wasn't real. It wasn't genuine. And I saw myself in them. That was exactly what had been the problem for me as an actor. You know, I knew I had talent, I just didn't know how to really access it fully at the time I was acting, and I would disconnect until that one night on Maui. So I wanted to help these acting students get present. I wanted to help them get connected to who they were when they were acting. I wanted to help them get into that zone state of presence that I had felt that night. And I wanted to figure it out for myself at that point. So this is the way I do things. I'm kind of a natural born teacher. I said, let's do a class. I'm going to do a class. I'm going to teach you how to develop presence and how to be authentic with your acting. Didn't have a clue how I was going to do it. I just had this intuitive sense that I could figure it out if people would come and work. And they signed up. So I started this first night with this little kernel of an idea. They came to class and I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. One at a time, I would like for you to come up in front of the group and just stand here and be the center of attention. Don't say anything, don't do anything, just be the center of attention and see what would happen. So they got up, one at a time, and it looked about like this. They stopped breathing. And they got a little bit rigid, and their eyes got big. So I started to ask them, tell us what you're experiencing in your inner climate there. Right there. What's going on? And they would say things like, my heart is pounding. My stomach is so tight, my knees are shaking, my palms are sweaty, I feel choked, I feel flushed, red all over. And what was interesting was that as soon as they would describe it out loud, they would start to relax. And that pretty much happened to everybody. So everybody did this, and it kind of happened to everybody. And it's like everybody sort of relaxed a little bit at the center of attention. And so after everybody had done that, I thought, this is working. Let's do it again. I didn't know what else to do. So I said, let's do it again. And we did several rounds of this. And after several rounds, a really amazing thing started to happen. Some of the people in class started to say things like, wow, this feels great. I love being the center of attention. Can I stay up here a little while longer and just enjoy this? Yeah, that's when I knew I was onto something. I was evolving a method, a system for helping people transform stage fright, what I now call the tension of being the center of attention, into relaxed presence so that they are comfortable in their skin in front of others. And at the time, I was only doing this for my acting students because 22 years ago, I taught acting and I taught speaking voice, and that was it. But after about a year, I started hearing people say things like, boy, the number one fear is public speaking. And so I thought, well, I'm missing the boat here. I have something I think can help. I should be doing this for speakers and presenters and business communicators and engineers and architects and doctors and lawyers. And so it started to evolve into a speaking method. It took about 10 years. It took close to a decade, and it just evolved over time and eventually became a full-blown method for helping people develop a style of speaking that's authentic to each person. That is based on being who you are instead of who you think you should be as a presenter. Get the difference? And that was 22 years ago. Since then, I have facilitated hundreds of groups, which means thousands of people, and maybe some 3 or 4 dozen company groups at this point. And I still love doing it. It still thrills me to watch people transform in front of a group, to become so comfortable to be who they are, and present and connected. And so here we are. You are Toastmasters. You are the most well-known, significant public speaking training forum in the world. And so it's a real honor for me to get to share some of my stuff with you. My approach is different. So, not mutually exclusive, just different. And they really work together beautifully. So here's what I want to do today. 4 things. I want to start by sharing some of my core concepts. That is, some of my thinking, some of the ideas and the principles upon which my method is built. And you have that in a handout. And then I want to explain to you what I think happens to us when we get seized up with this thing that we call stage fright or fear of public speaking, and see if you recognize it. And let's see, then I'm going to teach you my grounding exercise, kind of an in-the-body meditation that is the best antidote to stage fright that I know. And then what I really want to do is a kind of a demonstration for you. I'd like to show you at least some of how I work, and for that I'm going to need a volunteer. Keep your hand up there. I'm going to need somebody who's really scared. Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to work with somebody who really gets tense and anxious when you have to speak in front of a group. Is that you? That's you. You're the one. What's your name?
Bryce.
Bryce? Bryce?
Adam.
Hang on, I'll come back to you. Thank you, that was easy. Okay, so, core concept number 1. Stage fright is not a symptom of something wrong with you. Rather, it is a sign of something very right with you, which is you are highly sensitive. The people who have the most stage fright have the potential to be among the most compelling, engaging, brilliant speakers of all, because they've got the feelings. Their feelings are up to the surface, where they can be used to create a genuine emotional connection with listeners. And I have seen this hundreds of times over the last 22 years. It is always the person in my class who is the most scared, who is literally quaking, like I used to, who ends up being the most compelling speaker, the one who touches us the deepest. because that person has so much passion. Which brings me to the second core concept. Stage fright is actually just passion energy that's trying to flow through the body when we become the center of attention, but it's getting stuck, especially along the spinal cord. Only because it's not being expressed. It's passion energy, high intensity emotional energy that gets triggered, gets stimulated as soon as we become the center of attention. It starts moving through us, and then we crunch on it. The secret to transforming stage fright is not to control the emotions, but to connect with them, to let yourself feel it and use it to express fully. You can learn to grab a hold of that, what feels like tension and fear and anxiety. You can learn to grab a hold of it and use it. And in so doing, you become an amazingly passionate speaker. The third core concept is that stage fright is triggered by two things. As far as I can tell, it's just these two things that we have to deal with. Fear of judgment and expectation of perfection. We're afraid we're going to be judged as not good enough. And we are expecting ourselves to be perfect. And we think if we're not perfect, we're not good enough. So there's always this kind of not good enough issue to it. So what we have to learn to do is transform our fear of judgment, and we have to learn to give ourselves permission as speakers, presenters, performers, not to be perfect. The great gift that comes from working through stage fright is self-acceptance. What we have to learn to do is open to be who we are in front of others. And once you can do that, there is no stage fright. It's easy. So let me stop here and explain to you what I think happens when we get seized up by this thing that we could call stage fright or fear of public speaking, that I call now the tension of being the center of attention. As human beings, we have a very sensitive central nervous system. Especially along the spinal cord, we have these nerve ganglia that come together in these energy centers, and they're connected to the endocrine system. When a human being becomes the center of attention, the central nervous system gets excited. The cells in the nervous system and the endocrine system fire off, and the body is flooded with feeling. I mean, think of it. They're nerve cells. That's their job, is to create feeling. So we become the center of attention. The body is flooded with feeling, and there is nothing wrong with that. If you don't have stage fright, that feels like excitement, energy, enthusiasm, passion. But if you've got stage fright, you don't know what to do with that much feeling in your body in front of others. I like to say stage fright is fear of feeling in front of folks. That's it. That's all it is. Fear of feeling. So if you've got stage fright issues, if you haven't learned how to be yourself in front of others, then all that feeling gets stimulated and the body is flooded with feeling. And it feels so overwhelming, you don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to stay present for it. So there's only one thing to do. Leave the body. Leave your body and go up into your head. And so what happens instantly is a kind of a split internally. From the neck down, we tighten the body in order to try to freeze that flow of feeling. Now, if the body gets tight enough, it'll start to shake, because the body wants to experience flow, and the shaking is to try to get flow, blood flow, lymph flow, energy, spiritual energy flowing through the body. So from the neck down, we tighten in order to try to freeze that flow. But then we pull energy up into the head, and the head gets swollen, fuzzy, like too much energy up in the head. And in that kind of, you can't think. So there's a kind of an internal split, a disintegration that happens. We're literally trying to leave our body because we don't know how to stay present for that much feeling in front of folks. That is all that's happening. And that's what we have to learn to deal with, to manage, and to transform. And that brings me back to the fourth core concept. The opposite of stage fright is presence. Presence is a sense of being here now. Being all here. You've heard here, be here now. And where is here now for you? The only place in time and space that you can be totally present is to have your attention in your physical body. Presence has something to do with relaxing out of the head and back down into the body, so that we have awareness of being in our skin all the way down to our toes. We have to get out of the head and into the body. And when you do that, it feels totally different to be in front of a group. When you're up in your head and your head is flooded, you can't think on your feet because you're not in your feet anymore. But once you get out of your head and down into your feet, your head clears and you can actually think because you're present in the moment. So I have an exercise called grounding that is a pretty good antidote to stage fright. It helps people get out of the head and into the body. And I'm going to teach it to you a little bit later today, in this hour. The fifth core concept is the power of making receptive connection. That is, learning how to receive the flow of attention as love and support, rather than as something that we brace against. Interesting, huh? I have learned that there is a way to use the eyes to make connection in a way that makes it feel much more comfortable and much more safe to connect with people. I call it making a soft eye contact. And it's pretty simple. You simply relax the muscles of your eyes and let the focus of your attention be slightly unfocused. And then you look at people one person at a time. You simply land your eyes gently on one person at a time. And instead of using your eyes to try to reach out and grab them, you just let your eyes open and you take the impression of that person in. It's like you're drinking them in through your eyes. It's a little bit like being the lens of a camera. You know, a camera, the lens opens and the impression of the light comes in. It's exactly what soft eye contact feels like. So that you gently land your eyes on someone and then you just take them in. And what that does is it draws them to you magnetically. Instead of trying to reach out, instead of trying to work so hard to be dynamic, to push yourself out to people, you can actually become a magnetic speaker. You kind of drop into your body, you be grounded and present, and you gently land your eyes and you start taking the connection in. And it's palpable. Because we are spiritual beings, it's palpable. You can feel this sense of connection that gets created as you start using a soft eye contact with your audiences. It creates a two-way connection. See, we've got it right here, don't regret. The sixth core concept is the power of a safe group and positive acknowledgement. You can't heal stage fright alone because it's a group issue. It's an issue about learning to be who you are in front of others. So you need others. You need a group of others, right, to go through it with you. You need a group where there's some agreement to allow each other to go through the tension and fear so that it can be transformed. There are two things that we need from an audience or from a group. We need permission to experience and express our true feelings, including the fear, so that we learn that it's okay to be who we fully are in front of others and we don't have to pretend that we don't have feelings. And secondly, we need acknowledgement from a group that we're accepted no matter what. So that we learn that we're going to be accepted even if we're tense, even if we're anxious. So my work is, at least with the public speaking part of my work, is largely about creating safe groups and then guiding people through this process where we release the tension of being the center of attention and transform it into this state of presence. Learn how to receive the flow of attention as support. And only then do we start to speak. So I'm building this kind of internal platform. I'm helping people build this kind of internal platform of presence and comfort and connection before we ever try to speak. And what's amazing is that when people are acknowledged for who they are and what they do well, it sets them free. And then everything they have to say and their enthusiasm, their passion just bubbles up, and it becomes really easy to shape talks. Because underneath it is this sort of infrastructure, if you will. I work with engineers a lot. Infrastructure of comfort in the skin, presence, connectedness, and the ability to think on your feet. So there's a lot more I could say about these core concepts and others, but the truth is I'm better at doing this than I am at talking about it. So this is where I would like for Bryce to come up. I got your name right. Good, Bryce. Bryce, I'm just going to kind of guide you through this. And you just kind of hang out here for a second and let me talk to the group. What I'd like for you to do for Bryce is just become a loving witness for him. Just give him, there you go, give him your undivided attention and your unconditional support for Bryce to be who he is. And I think I'll just kind of, I'm going to kind of come over here. Yes, I knew I was going to meet you, Kelly. So Bryce, just take a minute there and let yourself be the center of attention. And you can keep your eyes open or you can close your eyes. But start to pay attention to what gets stirred up inside your inner climate at the center of attention. What do you notice? And then just kind of describe it to us.
I don't know what to do with my hands, for one.
Okay. They feel kind of awkward.
They feel awkward, but I feel tension inside.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Energy. There's a bunch of energy going on in there, isn't
not
there?
flowing. It's kind of like inside. What you were talking about, I was sitting back there, I was like, I want to learn how to get it to flow through me, which is very exciting.
Well, I think we'll do that today. But let's stay in this moment for now. Let's stay with what is right now. So you feel it kind of going zzz. Where do you notice it in your body?
I notice it in my knees. My knees want to shake.
Okay.
My in here just kind of is shaking, and I just feel shaky and kind of,
Shaky.
like any of us when we get up in front of people, you feel a little heightened anxiety, I think. And yeah.
Is there anything else that you notice?
I feel cool. So.
Cool.
Which is unusual. Usually you feel hot and flushed. When I was back there raising my hand, I felt flushed.
I'll bet.
And then even afterwards, I was like, okay, now I got to get up in front of everyone.
Who raised their hand anyway? Who was it?
Yeah, who was that? Oh gosh, that was me.
So do me a favor now. Just check in. feel your knees, feel your chest, and tell me, is it the same or different now that you've said all that?
My knees are still shaking a little bit, but it's kind of calmed down a little bit in here.
Okay, good.
Maybe it's flowing a little bit better.
Good. Great.
Yeah.
All right.
It's feeling better. So I guess what you're saying, we take that out of our mind and we focus that in our body, and it releases it a little bit.
What we resist persists. You've heard that. So if we acknowledge it and we give ourselves permission to feel, that emotional intensity starts to move into flow. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to sit down here in one of these chairs. And what I'm going to do now is teach you my little grounding exercise, a kind of a brief version of my grounding exercise. Grounding is a kind of an in-the-body meditation or visualization that just simply brings your attention or your awareness or your energy out of your head and redistributes it, flows it down through the whole body, all the way down to the feet, so that your center of gravity drops. You kind of drop out of your head and into your body. And it normally takes about 14 minutes to do it, but I'm going to try to do this in 7 or 8 minutes with you. I'll do a kind of an abbreviated version. So if you would like to experience this, then I would ask you to put your feet flat on the floor. Sit back in your chair. And in a second, we're going to close our eyes. But for now, I'd like for you to just take a couple of deep breaths. And I'm going to sit down and do this with you. Take a couple of deep breaths. And we're going to start by getting some energy into the feet first. If you want to think on your feet, you have to be in your feet. So, the way that we can get energy quickly in the feet is to stomp the feet like this. Just stomp for, I don't know, 10 or 15 seconds. Sometimes I do this with an engineering group, like on the 11th floor of a building, and I always wonder what the people below are thinking. That's probably good enough. Now just stop and close your eyes and feel your feet for a second. See if you don't feel a little more tingle, energy, awareness of your feet. And now we're going to start to take some slow, deep breaths at your own pace. And every time you exhale, think about letting the weight of your body down into the chair that you're sitting on and into the ground underneath you. As though every time you exhale, gravity is pulling your weight down into the chair and into the ground. See if you can sense the earth coming up to support you. The earth, the ground is very strong, and it will catch you. If you let your weight down into it, the ground will catch you. And now just relax your breathing. Let your breathing come back to normal. And keeping your eyes closed, bring your attention into your head. Just turn your awareness inside the bones of your head. And see if you notice there's a kind of energy buzzing around in your head. Do the best you can with this. See if you can let some energy flow from your head down through your neck. And see if you can fill your neck on the inside. When you put your attention anywhere, energy starts to flow there. So just put your attention into your neck and let it kind of get filled up. And then let it flow down into your chest. And we're going to let it expand to fill the chest. Let it flow into the front part of your chest. So the front of your chest feels like it kind of swells on the inside. And then let it flow around to the sides of your chest. And then into the back. So you want this sense of fullness in your chest. And then imagine that it flows down into your diaphragm and stomach area. And see if you can fill up the middle part of your body. Try to create a strong, solid middle. And allow that energy to flow all the way around your waist. And then flow it down past the waist into the pelvis. You're going to let it fill up the whole pelvic bowl. Let it flow into the front, the lower belly. And then around to the sides. And into the back. As the pelvis fills, it kind of feels like you sit down more deeply inside yourself and into the chair. So you can really feel the weight of your seat on the chair. And then imagine some of that energy flows around your hip joints. And then push it or flow it down your thighs. I like to think of lava flowing down the thighs. I want something heavy, warm, but still fluid. And let your thighs get heavier. And then flow it around your knees and down your calves. Think about filling the bones in your calves. And let it flow around your ankles. And then let it pour down into your feet like you're pouring lead or lava or warm honey into your feet. Let it flow so your feet feel longer. And let it spread so they feel wider. You want heavy feet. And focus at the arches. We've got high energy centers at the arches of the feet. You might feel a tingle, a pulsation, a sparkle. And imagine that you drop it into the ground from your arches, like you're growing a couple of thick taproots, or putting down a couple of piers deeply into the earth. And try to anchor your feet to the ground. And take a couple of deep breaths here. And remember on your exhales to just let your weight down. Feel your feet, your pelvis, and your chest at the same time. Feet, pelvis, chest at the same time. And then let a little more energy from your head flow down your neck and into your chest. And just tune into your inner climate for a moment. See what you notice inside your skin. See if you feel like you're more in one piece, more whole. See if you feel more relaxed, more flow, or maybe heavier, maybe more tingly. See if your head is maybe a little quieter. And take your time. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. And just try to stay present in your own skin as we continue working with Bryce. What are you doing? Ready to stand up? Let's stand up. When you stand up, Bryce, give yourself a good wide base and let the energy kind of go whoop, down into your legs and feet. Can you feel that? Like you're heavier now down here? Check into your knees. Remember you said they were kind of wobbly? Are they still really wobbly, or do they feel more stable?
They're stable. Cool.
Awesome. So just check in now and see what it's like in your inner climate. Same or different?
Much calmer.
Much calmer.
Feeling my feet now.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine
down
that. You feel like you're down here.
But it's not anxiety at all. It's just very calm.
It's just heavy, solid, present, calm. Good.
It's a nice feeling.
It's a nice feeling. Let's do a little bit of what I call mirroring the good for Bryce. What I would like for you to do, anybody who wants to, is share with him what you see in him or sense in him that you like. This is not a critique. It's not about his performance. It's about who he is. What do you like about him? Yeah.
I think he's bold because he volunteered to get up here when he didn't know what to expect and showed vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I think that's very brave.
Brave, bold, vulnerable. Back there.
I was going to say, he looks very pale and transparent.
He's transparent. There's an openness about Bryce. He's willing to be transparent. And that is very appealing to people. That's what makes a star, by the way. People who are stars at anything in performing and speaking arts have to have that sense of openness to be who they are, that transparency. That's a good catch on that one. Somebody else.
I was just going to say that since you've been up there, I've noticed that you seem more magnetic and attractive. I mean, it's not obvious. I'm saying that you're magnetic. I can feel you more.
So that's brilliant. I'm so glad you said that. As we get present down in here, we start to pull. This is a slightly different Kate than what I think you mostly do at Toastmasters. Mostly I think you're trying to project. I could be wrong. But this is about shifting back down in here and pulling them to you so that you become more magnetic. Cool, huh? Somewhere way back in the back.
Well, the word that I gave was authentic. I think the same as transparent.
Yeah, authentic, transparent. Anything else?
I like your hair, Bryce.
He's cute, isn't he?
I'm attractive, right? Everybody keep your seats.
That's funny.
My impression
You have to talk loud.
all right, in the beginning, I was impressed, or I was very struck by his very good, all-American, handsome appearance.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, hey, he's got it all together.
Why is he here?
And then I realized he is admitting being human.
Human.
And this may have been brought on by this massive crowd here, many of whom are very experienced speakers. However, I think that I do see a difference, and I think that tells me don't judge a person by his appearance. He may not be as bold and outgoing as he or she might appear in the beginning. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
When he first got up there, you could tell that he was focusing on himself, less interested in us. But now he seems so receptive. He's interested in who we are.
That's it. That's what we're talking about. He is starting to get comfortable enough here so that he doesn't have to focus on the tension of being the center of attention. He can start now to come out and pay attention to you, which leads me perfectly into soft eye contact. So let me start this with you. Just kind of let your eyes be soft and slightly unfocused. And just make connection with me. Land your eyes kind of over here. And just sort of take me in. And you'll notice that you see the whole of me. We've got soft eye connection both ways now. So you're not seeing any one thing, you're seeing the whole of me. Can you feel that sense of connection that we have?
Yes.
When you're ready, just gently shift that over to one person at a time. And just take in attention from one person at a time. Just take 3 or 4 people. And see what you notice.
Much more receptive. Unlike whenever I was first up here, what someone said is I was focusing all on how nervous I am, whereas now it's more I'm feeling the crowd more, and I'm feeling feel the personalities and the energy that's out there, and it's kind of very cool.
It's very cool.
You should all come up here.
So, nice job. You worked very fast.
You're a good teacher.
Thank you. Would you like to take a minute to say anything? Is there anything that comes up to say?
I think Sandra here has got some awesome techniques that she's talking about here. And when you first came here, you were talking about you do things a little bit differently than Toastmasters, than the way we teach it, or we learn it and teach each other in Toastmasters, and which is one of the reasons why I felt like I had to raise my hand, because I felt like I was attracted to you and what your speech was, or what your message was, that I thought, I've got to get up there. I hope she offers the suggestion. I hope she offers a volunteer, and so that's why my hand went up so quick.
Wow.
I knew it would be scary, but that's what we're here for in Toastmasters to do, is to grow. And so, to me, that was an opportunity that there was no question. It was a no-brainer. So I thank all of y'all for letting me come up here and grow with y'all, and I hope y'all have all, through this experience, learned something as well, too. So thank you. And thank you.
Did you see him just sort of blossom in front of you? He's brilliant. He was brilliant. That speaking came so easily. It just bubbled up from who he was being there in the moment. And the truth is, we're all brilliant. Underneath the surface, we each have a unique way of expressing ourselves that's authentic only to us. We just have to get the fear out of the way, and the judgment, and the fear of judgment. When we get that out of the way, then who we are and what we have to say just kind of bubbles up. And you don't have to work so much about the performance aspect then, because the authentic energy is under the surface. As Marianne Williamson said, we're all meant to shine, as children do. We're born to make manifest the glory of God that's in us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share some of my stuff with you. I really do appreciate it.
Sandra, thank you so much. I have taken many of Sandra's courses, and I attribute a lot of what I've been able to accomplish in my Toastmasters career to what I've learned from Sandra. her grounding exercises, her soft eye exercises, they all work. I thank you so much for being here. I have a small present for you, and it's right here. If you look on your sheet that Sandra left with you, one of her sessions is ... Tell your stories, share your wisdom. And when we were talking on the phone the other day, I said, Sandra, did you get that from my theme? And she said, no, that's always been the name of my course. And then I realized that deep down in the recesses of my mind, that stuck there. And when I came up with my theme, I actually stole it from Sandra. Because it is a good one.
Thank you all.
I would like you all to fill out this form right here. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then our classes will start. We're off schedule just a little bit, but we'll be picking up steam towards the end. So please check your programs. The next sessions will be starting at